Deshaun Watson has been cleared of criminal charges. So basically, what this means is Deshaun Watson, through the courts, they haven't deemed any of the allegations towards him to be things that he could be charged for on a criminal level. So most likely, he's not going to do any kind of jail time. Actually, that's exactly what this means. He's not going to be doing any jail time for any of these actions. He does still have the civil lawsuit and everything. From my research, I don't believe the NFL has actually ever suspended a player for a civil suit. They've pretty much all been criminal charges. So in that aspect, I think Deshaun's pretty much cleared to go and play for a new football team. It's gonna determine what team that ends up being. And the rumor has it that pretty much every team is interested in Deshaun, regardless of any of these allegations. They don't really hold too much weight in it. Apparently, you would think 22 allegations is kind of a lot. 22 women to say something negative about a certain person. I think that's still a lot of people. But nonetheless, the NFL teams don't seem to care too much about it. They're even willing to package, crazy amount of picks. The rumor is at least 3 first-round picks, most likely 3 seconds, and then maybe even some additional player capital. And most teams, it seems like, are still willing to give this package up to get Deshaun. Which, if you talk about Deshaun Watson, the football player, when he's on the field, yeah, this could be the biggest quarterback that's ever been traded. It's a guy, I think he's 26, 27, entering the prime of his career as an athlete. And he is, in reality, he's a top 5 to 7 QB in the league when he's playing. Which it's something, I know like a whole year went by and it seems like a lot of people forgot about Deshaun. But like when he was playing, like he's carrying this, Houston Texans team that's a poorly ran organization. And like his final year, I believe he led the league in yards passing. So this is clearly a dude who's very talented. It's just, putting things together as far as a trade package of who wants to trade for him. I'm going to list off a list of teams that are potentially in the running. So basically, Deshaun has a no trade clause. So he basically gets to pick who he wants to go to. The team still has to accept the trade. We're not going to accept, this trade if it's not what we want. But, anything that's reasonable, anything that would be acceptable for Houston, if Deshaun signs off on it, then he's good to go. And the way things are sitting now, Deshaun's actually meeting with these teams to determine whether or not he's willing to, sign the no trade clause. But some of these teams that I think I'll name the teams that I think could be in the market for him, and then obviously we'll name the teams that are apparently already have trades approved and they're just waiting for him to meet with them. But you've got the Steelers. I know the Steelers just signed Mitch Trubisky. But if you get a chance to get Deshaun, it's not like they gave Mitch Trubisky a whole lot of money or anything, so they could very well still do that. The Saints are a very strong contender for this. You have the Panthers, another team that they say is all in on this trade. The Vikings could be. I know they just re-signed Kirk Cousins, so I think they're probably not a good chance that happens. They're probably going to keep rolling with Kirk. The Giants have 2 top 10 picks. So the Giants very well, if they want to get their name in, they could be involved in this. They got the new head coach, Brian DeBole. The Eagles, they have 3 first-round picks this year. So maybe Philadelphia could be a landing spot. The Seahawks rumored to be getting involved because they just let go of Russ. Then you have Tampa. I need to delete Tampa. No way Tampa's happening now that Tom Brady's coming back. Another crazy thing happening in sports. Tom Brady retires for a month and a half, and he's ready to go back, playing his 23rd season, I believe. The Colts were interested. Apparently, they got kind of turned down. Texans are not trading in the division. Of course not. Makes no sense for them to. The Browns are also a dark horse in this trade. It seems like Cleveland is kind of putting all their chips into the table to trade for Deshaun. It's funny because they could have drafted him when he was available. And then you got the Dolphins. I don't think the Dolphins are. I think they've kind of pulled out of it. But you never know what happens last minute. A team could get really desperate and they could change their mind overnight. And then another couple teams that I don't think are going to trade for him, but there's been some kind of rumors out there. Cardinals potentially swapping Kyler for Deshaun. I mean, it makes sense kind of on both, if you look at both teams, because Deshaun has already been, he's already been paid, so his extension is good to go. Now, Kyler wants a bunch of money, so if you're looking at Houston, we trade this guy, we can pay him right away. He's also a young guy who could be a superstar. If you're looking at Arizona's perspective, you trade for Deshaun, you get a guy who might be an upgrade over Kyler. He certainly has shown more in those crucial moments than Kyler has. So maybe you see Deshaun as an upgrade. You repair Deshaun with DeAndre Hopkins. But, like I said, I don't think that's very likely. The three teams that are really likely from all the reports that are coming out, apparently Houston has agreed to trade packages. They're just waiting for Deshaun to meet with these teams to determine whether or not they will, allow the trade to go through. So you have the Saints, the Panthers, and the Browns. And, just looking at this, it's like, why would you go to the Saints? Like, the Saints, I get the Saints have Kamara, and they've got Michael Thomas, who most people say Michael Thomas is done in New Orleans. But they've got a new coach, Dennis Allen. He's a defensive-minded guy. And then outside of that, like, they're in horrible cap space, so they're probably going to have to get rid of a ton of players. So they just, it doesn't seem like the ideal landing spot that's going to help you win a Super Bowl. They very well could get Deshaun and then be in that kind of Drew Brees mold for a few years where you're pushing, you're in the wild card, you're making the playoffs, but you're not ever like pushing beyond that. And then maybe they think that they can build that team back up around Deshaun, which is a valid point. I mean, you're getting the guy who's still got plenty of time left in his career. So that could make sense. The Panthers, I think, are like one of the better, teams that are set up for this. They might have to get up some pieces, McCaffrey, DJ Moore, but they do have some nice pieces on offense, and then they have a really young, solid defense as well. So if you're Deshaun, the Panthers might be a good look for you to go to. And then, of course, the Browns. The Browns are the best team that's like involved in this. Like, the Browns have one of the best duo of running backs in football. They've got a great O-line. They just got Amari Cooper. They let go Jarvis Landry, but they've got some other good receivers, Peoples-Jones and whatnot. And then their defense, they've got one of the best pass rushers in football in Myles Garrett. And then you got a solid secondary and, just a pretty good defense overall. So if you're Cleveland, like, Deshaun is that Cleveland. It's funny to say this because the Browns are the Browns. They've been the Browns for years, and it seems like they're always just not good enough. But if you trade for a top 5-10 player at QB, then like maybe you can make that next step. But I do, it kind of brings me to my next point. If I'm Deshaun, like, whoever you go to, they're going to have to mortgage their entire future for you to play for them. So you're going to want to be on the team that's the best prepared to win right now. And, that might be the Browns. Looking at the other teams, like the Eagles have a decent roster. Outside of the Browns, like most of these teams are going to be in like complete rebuild states. Like if the Panthers trade for Deshaun, Christian McCaffrey can't stay on the field healthy. They're probably going to have to give up like a Brian Burns or a big piece from their defense to get Deshaun. So that's like, that's tough. And then the Saints, I think the Saints is like probably the best organization if you're looking at the whole picture of things, with the way they ran with Sean Payton and everything. And he could start over there thinking, this is a team that they've shown they can build a team around a QB. So maybe he sees that as a good opportunity.